It's Mock Draft Monday, and it's my Mock Draft Monday. We got 4 quarterbacks off the board and the top 5 picks. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and the senior draft analyst. And as always, guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And I got to kick this intro over to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ. Yes, here to bring you championship level content surrounding the NFL draft 24/7, 365. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you comment. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the best NFL draft content there is out there. And speaking of NFL draft content, it don't get any more NFL draft than a mock draft Monday. And last week we had my mock draft. This week we have DP's mock draft. Yes, we're going through that thing. We may be a little critical, but we're going to give him his props too for the quarterbacks that are top heavy. We have a top heavy mock draft. But man, before we get into this mock draft, DP, why don't we hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, guys, you know what we do. To start this show, picks 1 through 10. At number 1, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. At pick number 2, the Washington Commanders select Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. At pick 3, the Atlanta Falcons, yes, not the New England Patriots. We got to trade. The Atlanta Falcons move up from 8 to 3 to select Jayden Daniels, quarterback from LSU. At pick 4, the Arizona Cardinals stand pat and select wide receiver 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. At pick 5, yes, not the Los Angeles Chargers. We got another trade. The Minnesota Vikings moved up from 11 to 5 to get J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. At pick 6, the New York Giants select Talise Fuaga, right tackle out of Oregon State. At pick 7, the Tennessee Titans select Joe Alt, offensive tackle from Notre Dame. At pick 8, the New England Patriots, via the trade down, select Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. At pick 9, the Chicago Bears select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. And at pick 10, the New York Jets select J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. Keith, where do you want to begin?
DP, it's so many places I want to begin, right? I can't just begin at we'll take it from the very beginning, right? With the first trade, the Atlanta Falcons moving up and selecting Jayden Daniels. I like it. I like it for Atlanta. I think it's trying to, turn the page, right? And I feel like the Atlanta Falcons owner Arthur Blank, right, with general manager Terry Fontenot, when they decided to hire Raheem Morris, right? Make sure I'm saying his name. It seems like they're trying to turn the page, right? They're trying to embrace the city. They're trying to embrace hot Atlanta. And I think you talk about a culture fit. I think that's a potential culture fit. And I talked about Jayden Daniels as a prospect. And, I do like him, but also wanting to put him in the right situation, a la the Jalen Hurts situation, right? If he goes in the right situation, I think you get the right situations. I think Raheem, as much as he is a defensive guy, I want to say, or that's how he came. I know he did both sides of the football, but I think he kind of made his stamp more on the defense side of the football. I do think he's still a guy that can be in tune with the quarterback, right? Like he seems like a good guy that can communicate with a young quarterback and help groom him and help get him through these moments day in and day out. But more importantly, practice in and practice out, because the games are the games, right? But I think your confidence gets built at practice to be able to show up in the game and make those type of throws that you need to make, or just make the plays you need to make. So I like that. And then DP, I'm going to finish this thing off. I'm going to skip the J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings. And then one of them, They made me sad, DP. They made me sad, and it's one of those, well, man, you got to do it, right? It's the New York Giants drafting Talise Fuaga. Because you know what that means, DP? The Evan Neal experiment is over. It's over. And you went and you put case closed, right? We done with this experiment. And hopefully Evan Neal, and I'm gonna say this on this podcast, hopefully, if this would happen, DP, if this mock draft Monday is reality, right? He gets traded to a team that's going to put him at left tackle and let him figure that thing out. So that was my two biggest takeaways, DP. I'm not gonna hog the whole first segment, so I'm gonna let you jump in and then I'll round it out. But yeah, that was my two biggest takeaways, and this is my live reaction for first seeing this mock draft by DP.
Now with the Talise Fuaga pick, man, Keith, I thought about it. I said, all right, maybe you kick Evan Neal in that guard, right? Athletic, he's physical, he's strong.
You didn't trade him.
Yeah, like if you don't trade him, I say you kick him in that guard and you try to get the best out of him and give Daniel, because I mean, with to me, the top 4 quarterbacks already off the board. I don't believe in reaching for Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix or any of those other guys at 6. I think that's just draft malpractice, in my opinion. If you're the Giants, right, you got to go ahead and ensure up the offensive line. But Keith, of course, Jaden Daniels, right? This is a pick that when I had heard that there was a strong chance, even before the rumors came out, that New England could trade down. And then the rumor really hit this past weekend prior to the Super Bowl that New England was willing to so what's been said is that Mac Jones is probably not going to be on the roster this year, right? So that experiment is done. And then they're looking at bringing in a veteran, whether that is, I think Russell Wilson could be a good fit with Alex Van Pelt, who's the offensive coordinator now with Gerard Mayo, if you want to go the veteran route. And then you could still go with a Spencer Rattler, a Bo Nix in round 2 or 3, and have a Russell Wilson who's a great teammate, who's not going to cause any problems, and you got a strong structure in terms of the head coach situation in New England. So I was like, you know what? Cool. Let's trade down. Let's get the Falcons a quarterback, man. You got Bijan. You have a Kyle Pitts coming back healthy now, 100% healthy this year after I think it's an MCL, PCL injury he had the year before in 2022 in the surgery. And then, of course, you got Drake London. You need to finally get a guy. And you weren't aggressive last year, right? You could have done this last year and go up and get an Anthony Richardson, right, at 3 and trade with the Cardinals, but you didn't do that. You stood pat. And you got Bijan. Well, in this case, now you got Bijan and you get yourself a dual threat quarterback. So I really wanted to do that. And of course, Keith, at 5. I mean, I know people were like, DP, you tripping. JJ McCarthy at 5. Guys, listen, DMX said it. I'm tripping, I'm falling. But I can get up. I'm going to get up, guys, because this right here for me is I love the fit for JJ McCarthy to Kevin O'Connell. I think this offense benefits him. I think this is a young man that's ran off a pro-style offense under Jim Harbaugh. But with that, this is the not Shanahan, but this is the Shanahan McVay system that Kevin O'Connell runs. And when you got T.J. Hockenson, granted he's going to be coming back off of ACL, but you have Jordan Addison, you have Justin Jefferson. Talking about actual, like, really, really good receiving weapons that he had Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson, but they didn't allow those guys to be unleashed in the passing game. Kevin O'Connell is going to let him throw the football. He's not going to run it 45 times a game. He's going to allow him to deal with the bumps and bruises as a rookie, but be able to let the ball go and push the ball down the field. And this young man, like Keith, you watched him, he's got impressive tape when they allow him to drop back and get into a rhythm playing quarterback, not playing, quarterback that hands off and just play action, but actual true drop back sets. I consistently say that. If you're watching the tape, look for the true drop back sets. Look when he gets into a rhythm, and that's where you find the solace. And man, if we can get this consistently, which you can with the reps and good coaching, you got yourself a potential star type of quarterback because he's got all the physical tools in the toolbox, man. So that's why I got aggressive, Keith. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to get a little spicy with this mock after the Super Bowl. I said, you know what? Some teams got to move up, and I found 2 that were very willing to move up and go get quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. The trades I was not expecting. One trade is like okay, but you went for the double trade, DP. So you were definitely in your general manager. This might have been higher than your general manager, right? Because you're picking for all 32 teams. So you was on your NFL commissioner type thing, just kind of or doing your thing with that. But DP, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep it flowing, man. Listen, that was picks 1 through 10. Coming up next, man, we have picks 11 through 20 from Damian Parsons post Super Bowl mock draft coming up next.
DoorDash went all out for game day, and DoorDash stuff from all the ads to one lucky winner. Cars, snacks, even tax software. Guys, DoorDash is the all-in-one app for your everyday needs, from restaurants and groceries to flowers and gifts. So the next time you're running low on dinner ideas, pet supplies, or just time in general, you can get so much more than you realize delivered. Whatever watch party or anything party you've got coming up, get it delivered with DoorDash. All right. That's all you have to do. No matter if it's a football game, a basketball game, no matter what you're doing, if you need specific things, get it delivered right to DoorDash. For me, I love dessert. Me and my family love the Cheesecake Factory. And after watching the game and after eating all the watch party favorites this past weekend, I can easily have Cheesecake Factory delivered to my front door. So whatever watch party or anything party you've got coming up, get it delivered with DoorDash. At pick 11, the Los Angeles Chargers, via the trade now with the Minnesota Vikings, select Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. At pick 12, the Denver Broncos select Latu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. At pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders select Jerzon Newton, interior defensive lineman from Illinois. At pick 14, the New Orleans Saints select Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle from Penn State. At pick 15, the Indianapolis Colts select Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. At pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks select Jarrett Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. At pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. At pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals select Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams select Dallas Turner, edge rusher out of Alabama. And at pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. Keith, where are we starting here in picks 11 through 20?
Yeah, it's another sad situation, DP. Listen, I think when you created this mock draft, it was a whole lot of moving on from people, right? And I'm going to go to the New Orleans Saints, man. Them selecting Olu Fashanu means what? The Trevor Penning experiment is over with. It is done. We're going for a new left tackle, right? And listen, obviously, me being down here in the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area, I get a lot of New Orleans Saints information and just stuff going on, man. And I'll be honest, the Trevor Penning experiment has not worked, right? And them, because you remember Trevor Penning at the Senior Bowl, and he did it some when he was drafted to the Saints, like his aggressiveness. And it was some of it. I'm not using the word dirty, but some of it was like, it walked the line of like being almost after the play and being extracurricular versus being in the structure of the play. Some of his aggressiveness and willingness to finish runs and things like that. But they told him to kind of dial it back, and I think when they told him to dial it back, DP, they took some of his identity with that, right? And so now Trevor Penning not being able to dominate in the run game, and then also he was already facing an uphill battle in pass protection. It's sad to see, right, with being able to move on, having to move on after only 2 years, and that's a front office situation that you have to address. But if you look at it, it's probably needed, right? Go with the guy with the high tools, and if you're the New Orleans Saints, you're probably sprinting to run this card up, because who would have thought that Olu Fashanu would have been there at pick 14? If you'd have said, if you ever acting like this is April, right, and you're talking about August of that year, right? Who would have said that Olu Fashanu would have been up there? But DP, I want to go to another offensive tackle situation, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals drafting Tyler Guyton. I like this because this Tyler Guyton, if we're thinking about this in a traditional perspective, right? And your left tackle is your pass protect guy. Your right tackle is your run. Your run heavy. He's dominant in the run game. But we know what Joe Burrow needs, right? He needs another pass, because Joe Burrow likes to hold on to the football. Trust me, I've seen it every single day. I've seen it at practice, seen it in games. That's just how he makes his plays, right? That's the Joe Burrow magic that you get with it. And I think drafting a pass protecting right tackle, don't even worry about moving him to left. Let him be a pass protecting right tackle, because Joe is going to need both of those guys to be able to hold up for, 2.5, 3.5 seconds. I think that can be exciting, DP, when you look at it from that perspective. Like, okay, they might finally have a bookend right tackle that can hold up and play to the style of play that Joe Burrow likes to play, and not to knock Tyler Guyton in the run game, because while he might not be a dominant guy, he's a guy, you're talking about those zone schemes. He can get to second levels. He's aggressive by nature. He wants to finish. It's just a different type of body, in a different type of approach for him.
No, 100%. I think when you look at the Saints situation, Keith, yeah, you talked about it, right? Trevor Penning at Senior Bowl, we saw how, like you said, over aggressive or excessive. I think that's the best word for him. He was just excessive with some of the stuff that he was doing, where you got guys on the defensive sideline like, man, we can fight right now if you want to do all that. Like, he was just doing too much. Like you said, it was an uphill climb for him, and I think it's always tough when you, like you said, when you tell a guy, hey, I needed you to dial it back, when their best trait or best attribute is their level of physicality. And then it's like, how do I find myself when I tone it down? And I think that's where it's like, it's just been tough. And like from a technique standpoint, Penning hasn't really developed. And I feel like Olu Fashanu is light years better than what, in terms of and being more ready than what Trevor Penning was coming out of college a couple years ago, man. I think with Olu, you get yourself a high caliber athlete, a freak of nature athlete with the arm length, the power, the raw functional power. You know what I mean? The anchor ability, everything is just, again, getting him with the right O-line coach, developing his hands, and stuff like that, to where he's more of a defensive boxer, as I like to call it, being more on the defense than just allowing guys to get their hands fitted into his chest. And yeah, Guyton, man, I love because I got to that point, I was like, and I realized that Guyton wasn't off the board. I said, this is the home. This is the spot, right? Like you said, I was like, nah, they already got Orlando Brown, junior at left tackle. You don't have to move Guyton to the left. Let me go ahead and put Guyton right here. And now you give Joe Burrow two bookend type of tackles, where you got guys who are strong, good athletes, especially Guyton. And I think that, we saw him, up close and personal in Mobile. Kids, I think he still has a frame that you can add more muscle to and kind of become a little bit more dense and more rounded with his body type, and still be as athletic and freakish as he is as a former tight end. So I think that those are the things that stuck out to me. Seattle, Keith, like Seattle Seahawks, I'm not gonna lie. That's one I struggle with when it comes down to this mock draft right now, because it's like you could use a quarterback, right? Geno Smith, like, you missed the playoffs after paying him, so that's never a good look, right? When we didn't pay you, you made the playoffs. We get to, what I'm saying, we paid you, you missed the playoffs. Like, it's never a good look. And you already have people wondering, was that a 1-year wonder type of thing with Geno? I don't think it was. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you could potentially use a younger quarterback. But when you got Jared Verse and Dallas Turner falling down the board, even though you have Boye Mafe, you drafted Derek Hall, I'm like, you kind of got to go with one of these. It's hard to pass up that level of pass rusher when they fall right into your lap. So, like, I looked at the Seahawks and then the Rams getting Dallas Turner, and like I put in my synopsis, like, you Aaron Donald, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, right? 2 of those were rookies last year, and they were really good. 8-9 sacks apiece from Turner and Young. Now you add Dallas Turner on the opposite side, where now you're 4-man front on third downs and late in games, right? When Brock Purdy has to drop back, when Kyler Murray has to drop back, when Geno Smith has to drop back and throw, you're going to unleash a pass rush of Dallas Turner, Kobe Turner, Aaron Donald, and Byron Young on the front 4. Keith, I'm not blitzing anybody. I'm not sending pressure. That's my pressure. That 4-man front, I'm sending those guys at the quarterback, and you have guys that can kind of flip-flop and move around and really collapse the pocket from all angles. And I love that pick for the Rams. And I thought corner there, Keith, I did. But I was like, man, if I could put Dallas Turner on this D-line, sign me up.
Yeah, no, that's a good selection. I wanted to ask you, though, like, we don't have to rewind. I wanted to ask you, can you see Olu Fashanu falling that far, right? Because there's some people that'll see this mock draft and be like, Olu all the way at 14, pick 15. Is that even possible, right? I want to ask you, like, can you see that just having watched the film, but then also the combination of we know what the athletic upside is. So is this a thing where is it just how the board felt, or do you really see Olu Fashanu potentially falling that far?
So it is how the board fell, of course. With the 4 quarterbacks in the top 5, still got your receivers in there and everything. But I do think that there's a shot right now, and this is pre-combine, right? We'll be boots on the ground in Indianapolis in a couple weeks, guys. But pre-combine, I think that everyone looks at his game and said, listen, freakish athleticism, high upside, but the hands, right? The hand technique, the hand refinement is lacking. And I could see some teams and people saying, you know what? Maybe we don't like, and I think this is self-awareness, right? If you don't feel like your offensive line coach could get him to where he needs to be, don't make the pick. That's the only thing you know what I'm saying? Don't bring him into a situation where you don't have the coaching staff for him. So I could see him potentially slipping where Joe Alt goes in front of him and then the quarterback's kind of push him down. I don't think that, again, this is pre-combine, because I think he goes to the combine, Keith. They see him up close and personal. He measures in 6'6", 315, 320. Let's say he hits 4'8", 4'9" easily. He moves incredibly well, like we know he can and should on the field drills. It will change that perception. But prior to the combine and the athletic testing, I do believe, and I think he's going to kill the interviews too, I do believe there's a shot that he slips down outside of the top 10, mainly because of quarterbacks and teams getting aggressive, but also because of some questions about his polish and him as a day one starter.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep this thing going, DP. That was picks 11 through 20. Let's round this thing out with picks 21 through 32 coming up next.
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, right now, because right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and so much. And I truly mean so much more. Guys, the ability to just put out a quick bet and bet on your favorite prop or your NBA team and or player is clutch. So just visit FanDuel.com/locked on and shoot your shot. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on to shoot your shot, because FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, guys, let's close this thing out. And remember, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. At pick 21, the Miami Dolphins select offensive lineman from Duke, Graham Barton. At pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles select Tyler Nubin, safety from Minnesota. At pick 23, the Houston Texans select Byron Murphy II, interior D-line from Texas. At pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys select offensive tackle Amarius Mims out of Georgia. At pick 25, the Green Bay Packers select Jackson Powers Johnson, interior offensive lineman out of Oregon. At pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. At pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals select Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson. At pick 28, the Buffalo Bills select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. At pick 29, Darius Robinson, edge rusher out of Missouri, goes to the Detroit Lions. At pick 30, Baltimore Ravens select Keon Coleman, wide receiver from Florida State. At pick 31, the San Francisco 49ers select Kingsley Sewell-Matia, offensive tackle from BYU. And at pick 32, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs, select Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas. Keith, where are we beginning here?
There's a couple different spots, and I almost want to start this by starting with the end of this, right? And I'm the Kansas City Chiefs drafting Xavier Worthy. Yeah, I think this year, and this is obviously mock draft Monday, but it's post Super Bowl Monday, right? That we're seeing them the worst version of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And when they add Xavier Worthy to this wide receiver core, because I think his speed is that electric, I'm not going to dare call him Tyreek Hill, right? But I think he will instantly become one of the most electric guys when you're talking about straight line speed, but also has some start-stop ability, elusiveness, can run routes from different situations. He has some of that to him, right? I think he's a different element than a Kadarius Toney, right? Kadarius Toney fit more of that, if you want to ask me, more of that kind of gadget type wide receiver role. I think Xavier Worthy is a different situation. So if they add him, I mean, I'm like, okay, you're already better than what you were, right? Like, because they were missing that deep threat explosiveness, and he instantly gives you that. But he's also so slippery. He can take a bubble screen, quick screen, and do a lot of things with it. And then to wrap up real quick, Keon Coleman, right, to the Baltimore Ravens. This is more of a question, right? Do you think the Baltimore Ravens go wide receiver again, or do you feel like we gave you enough weapons to win at the wide receiver position? You know, like it kind of when you take a holistic look at it, right? And you say, even if you want to, blame Lamar, if you want to blame Todd Monken, right? But I think that, do they look at it this offseason and say, hey, we gave weapons, right? Now we need to address other parts of this team to be able to fix this team to move forward. So that I guess one of them was acknowledging the Xavier Worthy situation. And the other one was, I wonder if the Baltimore Ravens would go wide receiver again in the first round in back-to-back years.
So, of course, with Worthy, man, like I said, we saw the worst version of Kansas City still win the Super Bowl. But we saw, and while they won, the degree of difficulty offensively, it was tough. Their offense looked bad like a good part of this season, right? Where it's like, yeah, Mahomes is Mahomes, and Kelsey and the scheme and everything. You get guys open and all that. And Andy Reid got in his bag in the second half to be able to get guys free, right? The crossers and different things like that, the picks and rubs and whatnot. But at some point, your defense, while it was really good, your defense isn't going to be able to hold another team to 19. Because what happens if Kansas City, if San Fran scored 25-28 when all the times you gave them the ball back? That game looks a lot different because now Mahomes has to score and score with someone else. And I think that's where, I think getting Worthy is big because they need some speed to bring that deep ball back. And a guy that can catch the ball, I know Worthy has his concentration drops, but dear God, MVS those aren't concentration drops. Those are just drops that he has. He almost dropped the touchdown last night that was thrown right to him, right? He almost dropped the game-winning catch against Baltimore on the cover zero blitz. You need to get a guy that can bring some of what Tyreek Hill brought, and I think Xavier Worthy can do some of those things. With the Keon Coleman and the Baltimore Ravens thing, the Ravens right now are heading into free agency with four to five of their 7 to 8 receivers going to be free agents, right? All of their veterans. And even then, when you look at this receiving core, Lamar had to hold the ball a lot, especially against Kansas City. Why? Because Trent McDuffie had guys on lock, and L'Jarius Sneed had guys on lock, right? Guys weren't quickly getting open, and it's like, but then they were also undersized. Rashad Bateman, to me, plays under. He's not the biggest guy in terms of frame, but he's probably one of the taller ones out of the bunch, and he doesn't play big at the catch point. So I'm like, if Keon Coleman falls, Eric DeCosta, you better not. You better not turn that card and say, let me get Keon Coleman, because that would give you Keon Coleman as the X, Xavier Worthy as the Z slot. Then you have Rashad Bateman. You bring back OBJ because he's he can still ball for one. He can still get it done. But secondly, he'll be great in that locker room for these young guys. Then you have Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. At some point, you as the franchise have to say, we haven't given you what Joe Burrow has. We haven't given you what Mahomes had early on, where he had that star dominant receiver and Tyreek Hill and a dominant tight end. Like, you have to admit that as a franchise. We didn't give you a Stephon Diggs yet. We haven't given you that true number one. And that's something he's lacked this entire career in Baltimore. So while they did give him weapons, they got to be self-aware and say, you know what? We can always add at least one more that can really help take this team over the hump, especially from a passing standpoint. You put Keon Coleman in this, all right, cool. You want to play chest to chest, hip to hip? This dude's probably going to jump over 40 inches in the vert at the combine, Keith. He's going to moss a couple cats. and a guy that Lamar Jackson can build that trust with, the same way he built that trust with Isaiah Likely when he showed he can do those things, and with Mark Andrews.
Yeah, no, I'm that's what I want, and I think that'll be an interesting piece too. And then also, if you look at the Baltimore Ravens, right, I guess you feel a little bit better about your loss because you said that, hey, we lost to the Super Bowl champions, right? So it may blow just a little bit, but man, obviously disappointing season. You win the AFC, right? And then you're trying to go to the Super Bowl. You have to get the job done. But DP talking about get the job done, man. You got the job done with this mock draft right here. Want to tell everybody, man, go check this mock draft out on the Draft Network, man. And listen, don't forget to tell DP how you feel about the mock draft, man. Listen, I want to say this, man. Y'all make sure y'all like, make sure you comment, let DP know, let me know, right? If you like our synopsis or you didn't like our synopsis, and then if you're not subscribed to the channel, go subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend that this is the best NFL draft content that they have out there. Listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code, man. That right there, that is my co-host, man, the guy who made the mock draft for today. That is Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, man. On tomorrow's show, we're getting into sleepers, dames, dudes, and then we're bringing back perfect fits because we had such a great time talking about those things last week. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.